Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews, and guess what, kids? Guess what? It's a fifth week, which means it's a small week. It's actually a small week. But here's the thing. Even though it's a small week, there are like three oversized multi-page books that are really have tons of stories in them. So it's still gonna take a little while. But first, before we get started, there was a Kickstarter that I backed. It's Jeff Lemire, Matt Kent, and David Rubin's Cosmic Detective. It's an original graphic novel written by Lemire and Kent with artwork, colors, and I believe lettering. Everything else is done by David Rubin. It's absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous book. I haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but it's the creative team is just fantastic. I mean, I love their work, and David Rubin is such an amazing artist. So hopefully I'll be able to do a review of that by itself soon. Because like I said, I started it, but I haven't quite finished it yet. It's been a busy week. So like I said, there's a couple. Actually, there's three big books. So we're gonna get right to it. First off, we have Amazing Fantasy 1000. So I'll go through each story, and then I'll say the creative team, and then I'll talk about each one. So the first one's Just Some Guy by Anthony Falcone and Michael Cho, with artwork by Michael Cho. Sinister 60th, written by Dan Slott, with artwork by Jim Chung. Then we have Spider-Man versus Conspiraton, written by Armando Iannucci, with artwork by Ryan Stigman. The Kid's Got a Good Eye, written by Rainbow Rao, with artwork by Oliver Copiel. In the Flesh by Ho-Chi Anderson, with art written by Ho-Chi Anderson, with artwork by Giuseppe Camelucci doing the pencils and Klaus Janson inking. Then we have Slaves of the Witch Queen, written by Kurt Bissett, with artwork by Terry Dodson. Then we have You Get It, written by Jonathan Hickman, with artwork by Marco Cicchetto. Then we have With Great Power, written by Neil Gaiman, and artwork by Steve McNiven. And then the last story, Along Came a Rhino, by Mark Pasaluo, with artwork by Todd Knock. So, first of all, as with any of these oversized books, I always base it on, is it, how many stories there are, and the cost of the book. In this case, I really have to admit, this is one of the rare Marvel ones that not only celebrates like an anniversary, but all the stories are really, literally amazing. Pun intended. Really, what I liked about all of the stories was that they all kind of had a heart to them. I think the thing was that it wasn't really about continuity or anything like that. It was really just about telling good short stories. And like I said, I'm a really big fan of short stories, and I think if you tell a good short story, I think they can be really good. So the Just Some Guy is basically this kind of a low-level criminal who breaks into places, and Spider-Man keeps catching him. And so eventually, like the after the first time, or that Spider-Man catches him, he gets this plan to entrap Spider-Man, for making him go to jail. And so he hires these goons and they go, oh, well, yeah, you're right, Spider-Man did show up. So it's really a fun story. Really the big win for me on that one is Michael Cho's artwork. I really love him. He's a really brilliant artist, and it's just a fun little story. The Sinister 60th is actually really one of the most heartfelt ones, because it's as Spider-Man and Mary Jane, that they're older. Like, he is actually 60. He's still doing Spider-Man. What happens is he's on the way to meet her for their anniversary dinner, and he gets shot. And so they end up taking the hospital, and of course, the paramedics don't take his mask off, so that they want to protect his identity. he survives, but basically there's a line of people waiting to thank him, who he saved over the years. It's just a touching story. I have to give it to Slott. That's a really, it's one of his really better stories that I've read, and the artwork by Jim Chung is just wonderful. The kind of newest story per se is Spider-Man versus Conspiraton, is basically about this villain who's in a giant robot, who, what he does is he goes to the Daily Bugle printing plant, and he infuses the paper with hallucinogenics, where everybody who reads the paper starts thinking conspiracy theories. It's funny because it's very timely, but also like fits into like a superhero comic book story. And so Spider-Man actually has to save him, and then of course everybody, the drug wears off. That's actually a good story. I really like the artwork by Ryan Stigman. It's really good, and Inishushi's artwork or stories is actually quite good. The Kid's Got a Good Eye is a really neat one. It's basically Peter Parker he's not doing Spider-Man, so he just takes normal pictures of everyday life in the city. And of course, J. Jonah Jameson doesn't actually buy any. And I don't want to say, there is one picture of Spider-Man that's kind of a joke, and I don't want to give it away. That's the one that J. Jonah Jameson likes. But then the editor sees the other photos and decides to run them on the other page because they're really beautiful photos. The interesting one is Slaves of the Witch Queen, which is actually a sequel to a story in Amazing Fantasy 15. And so what it is there's this think of an Egyptian queen, and this guy actually goes into the past, and then he tells her about all this stuff in the future. So she comes to like New York to like conquer it, and then when she gets here, she's like, wait, there's pollution, noise, all these buildings, hey, let's get the hell out of here. It's a really good story. Busek really, it's just a really charming little story, and Terry Dodson's artwork is absolutely amazing. It's really good stuff. You Get It is what it is he basically kind of goes to this cosmic realm where there's all these different Spider-Mans, and it's really funny, and I don't want to give much away, but they kind of give Peter a hard time. And that one's really interesting. Really, the one that's really quite interesting because it's actually a true story is With Great Power, written by Neil Gaiman and artwork by Steve McNiven, where what it was is Neil Gaiman and Jonathan Ross actually went to go visit Steve Ditko, and met him and everything. And of course, there was no recording of it or anything. There was really no interview. They just talked to him, and Neil actually got a comic signed by Steve Ditko. And it's really interesting because it's a true story, but yet it has a fantasy element where, at one point Neil Gaiman's in Ditko's apartment and he's is talking to Spider-Man. It's really great. Probably the most interesting story is the actual last one. Mike Pascagoula, he passed away this year, and apparently he had written a 5-issue miniseries that never got made. So what it was is they took he pitched the story. And usually when you pitch the story, you just have an outline, but he actually wrote out all 5 issues, even though the pitch wasn't accepted. So what they did is they actually took a part of that story, or part of one of those 5 issues, and actually had Todd Knock draw that. And it's just basically another a kid kind of has like Spider-Man powers, and he defeats Rhino, and it's just a really, it's a neat little story. But then knowing the history behind of how it was written. It's very bittersweet. It's really interesting. So I don't know, maybe eventually they might, if this is well received, maybe they might actually, if he did write it out, it would be neat to actually see that story. And of course, I'm a really big fan of Todd Knox's artwork, and he just does a really nice job on it. Overall, this is one of the rare times where a Marvel anniversary, and it's $8, and it's well worth that $8. There are no bad stories at all. The artwork's fabulous. It's definitely well worth picking up this week. Next up, we have DC Saved by Belle Reve. DC Saved by the Belle Reve, number 1. So once again, there's multiple stories. So we have Sophomore Year, written by Becky Cloonan and Brandon Fletcher, with artwork by Carl Ketchel. Then we have High School Lows, written by Tim Seeley, with artwork by Scott Collins. We have Back to School, written by Peter J. Tomasi, with artwork by Max Rayner. Earn It Back, written by Dave Welligaz, with artwork by Mark Norton. Peacemaking, written by Franco and Baltazar, with artwork by Art Baltazar. This Is Why, written by Brandon Thomas, with artwork by Craig Carmack. How Angels Are Made, written by Dan Waters, and with artwork by Joan Fiera. And A Night Off, written by Andrew Oyen, with artwork by Nelson Daniel. So once again, this is one of those things where there's multiple stories. So the first one, Sophomore Year, is actually a Gotham Academy story. And it's a real shame because Gotham Academy was a really good book that sadly has kind of fallen by the wayside. I know there were some trades of it, but it'd be nice to have a collection. So it's basically about a story of the kids coming back before their sophomore year, and so it's kind of an in-between story. So if you haven't actually read Gotham Academy, you could be a little lost, but not too bad. It's just a story set in that period, but they give you enough of the story to kind of tell you what's going on. I actually enjoyed it. I was a big fan of Gotham Academy, and Kirchhoff's artwork is really nice. High School Lows is probably the funniest one. So what it is, the Suicide Squad goes undercover to protect this kid who's going to school. So they actually all get jobs. Harley Quinn becomes a counselor. Peacemaker becomes the gym coach. Katana becomes a librarian. The Weasel becomes the school lunch lady. And King Shark actually becomes like a teacher. So they're kind of keeping an eye on the kid, and then they discover that well, first of all, there's like these assassins that come and try to kill the kid, but they find out it's actually this spirit that is actually controlling everything. It is freaking hilarious. I have to give it to Seeley that he just, and there is one of the funniest cameos that has absolutely nothing to the story. I will not ruin it for you, but it was like, bravo, Tim Seeley. I love it. It's a non-wink to Captain Marvel Shazam. That's all I will say. And it's just really, it's a hilarious story. It is really, really good. And the artwork by Rayner's really, by Collins is actually really, really nice. Back to School is probably the most interesting one because it's written by Peter J. Tomasi. It's basically the Super Sons period with John and Damian. And what it is there's a new kid in school that is, let me see, Sydney, who is non-binary. So the bullies pick on them. And so the boys actually try to help them. And it's just a really touching story, and it's really nice, and it really fits into the Super Sons, and even in somewhat the current continuity. It's just a really sweet story with a nice ending, and Norton's artwork's really nice. Peacemaking is the Tiny Titans comic book version, with Art Balthazar and Franco doing it, where they inadvertently, they're going to some like vegetable patch, and they end up in the kind of a jail that has like the Suicide Squad and stuff, and it's really just, it's kind of a charming, goofy little story. It's really like the young adult type stuff, or kids book. It was a lot of fun. This is why is actually a Black Lightning story. It takes place in the continuity of Lex Luthor being president, and he's the Secretary of Education, but he also is a teacher. So it really is about him teaching kids how to find their inner strength and hero. Like one kid gets bullied, so he teaches him how not so much to fight, but to really defend himself. There's a girl who is afraid of heights, and so he teaches her, like, it's okay to be scared. You can, and I can help. This can help you get over your fears. It's a really interesting story, and it has a really nice ending that they certainly will not give away. But Thomas is, like I said, the script is really good. Carmack's artwork's really nice. How Angels Are Made is how basically it's the origin story of Azrael, of how they taught him to kind of bring Azrael out. That is what that story is. And Fiera's artwork's really amazing. That's a really good looking book, or looking story. And the final one, A Night Off, is Batgirl and Nightwing. They're going to the prom, so it's set in that time of their life. And of course, as they're going to prom, Alfred's driving them in the limo, and there's a superhero emergency. So they press buttons, and it kind of, so they have she has this gorgeous dress, and he has the tux on, so it kind of gives them a partial costume. And so they go to prom and everything. It's a really sweet little story. It's just a lot of fun. And Daniel's artwork is actually pretty good. It has a unique look, but I did like it overall. Once again, all the stories was good. Oh, I did miss one. This Is Why. Yeah, I got them all. Okay, This Is Why. Let me this Black Light. Lightning. Earn It. That's the one. Earn It Back. Okay, that's the one I missed. Okay, back up a little bit. Earn It Back is a Green Arrow Speedy story that's written by Well Gauze with artwork by Norton. And so what it is Speedy's not doing well in school, so Oliver basically punishes him and says, hey, you can't be Speedy until you get your grades better. And then once he gets his grades better, he won't let him be Speedy, because then, so it's kind of like, it's kind of that father-son relationship story. And it's once again, it's quite good. So that was back up there. It's actually after Back to School, and it's in between Back to School and Peacemaking. So that covers all of the stories. Once again, I think there's all winners. There was none that, I mean, there was like a couple that didn't blow me away, but they were solid stories in artwork. And overall, it was, once again, it's actually worth kind of $10. So next up, we get to a regular comic, just a single one. Wynd, the Throne in the Sky. Written by James Tynan IV, with artwork by Michael Dialness. So this is a sequel to the previous Wynd mini-series. So it would help if you have read it, but I will give it that if you have not read it, there is a setup at the beginning that kind of shows Wynd being hidden by this Molly, this barkeeper, and her daughter, and it kind of sets that up to where when he was a kid, now he's kind of a teenager adult, and so he's with Molly's daughter, Oakley, and they're on a journey. They're gonna have to go to like, they're trying to get away from the government that's kind of taken over, and they're, he's like the special, I don't want to say Messiah, but I guess it's kind of the closest way, that he's an integral part of what is to be. And so he's with this band of group that is trying to get him to where he needs to go. Like I said, there is an explanation of the previous storyline that it's really good, but I think it would help if you have read that. At first I wasn't a huge fan of the first few issues of Wynd, the original series, but it did really grow on me, and I did enjoy it. And this is a nice sequel, but I would definitely, like I said, I think you could read it on your own. I just don't think you're going to get a lot of the nuances of the setup to this story. So I think it would be wise if you at your local comic shop and you kind of look through. It's the same creative team of Tynan and Dionys, but this is a brand new storyline. So I would definitely, if it looks like it appeals to you, I would definitely go back and read the first one before I would start this one. So I think that's the best. But I did enjoy it. Like I said, I hadn't really remembered a lot. The recap was good on that, so I'll definitely give them that. Next up, we have Sandman Presents Nightmare Country #5, written by James Tynan IV, with artwork by Lisandro Esteran, and a dreaming sequence drawn by Aaron Campbell. So we have so Madison Flynn has basically been captured by the bad guys, and we still don't know quite why they were looking for her. But Corinthian actually has been trying to protect her, which is once again kind of odd. So once again, if you've been reading this, and you'll notice this really has tied in. This issue really ties into the first story arc of the first set of story arcs of Sandman with Corinthian in it. So if you've been watching the Netflix series, you're really going to be right in the zone for this, because the dreaming sequence that's drawn by Campbell actually shows that part of, when he's at the serial convention and Morpheus basically kills him. But now we now learn that we know that he was back, but we know that Morpheus, he's not necessarily like the bad guy that he was. So that's kind of an interesting twist on his story, because at this point we know that he's just been following her, Flynn, around, but we haven't known why. So this issue we find out that he's really trying to find out why, because she didn't dream and everything. So the irony is that she actually gets killed, and so Corinthian says, hey, she doesn't dream, this is, and I'm trying to find out, what or who is behind this, because we still don't know. And so Morpheus basically talks to his sister Death to bring her back to life, and she she finally finds out who he is, and she's like, well, yeah, but I don't know if I want to be hanging around if he's just gonna kill people. So Morpheus, so when he brings her back, part of the deal is for Corinthian is that he can't kill anybody unless she says it's okay. So now it's kind of like that's an interesting part of the story, and then she's going to be coming back. So this issue really opens up the story really wide. Now this has really been good. I think this is really kind of the sort of Sandman universe book that we've really been waiting for. The first batch was good, but Tynion is really, I mean, he's really steeped into the Sandman universe, and I love how he at this point has really brought it in. It's always taken place in Sandman universe, but how he's really tying it into like the first Corinthian storyline in Neil Gaiman's Sandman. So that is really a big win for me. But Estran's artwork continues, just really, it's really gorgeous. Campbell does a wonderful job on the dreaming recap sequence, and I'm just a really big fan of this book. I'm really liking this a lot. So it's definitely still worth checking out. Next up, we have Harley Quinn, the animated series, The Real Sidekicks of New Gotham, special #1. So once again, we have our last of our big books. So then we have the Tawny Talks, which is beginning and framing sequences of all these stories. It's written by T. Franklin with artwork by Max Sarin. Then we have Double Date, written by T. Franklin with O'Neill Jones doing the artwork. Identity Crisis, written by Alexis Concero, with artwork by Erica Henderson. Then we have Showtime, written by Connor Shin, with artwork by Logan Farber. Then we have Wild Ride, written by Jimmy Muscata, with artwork by PJ Holden. Then we have Two Jokers, written by Jameson Borak, with artwork by John McKell. So like I said, the Tawny Talks is the framing sequence. So what it is all the cast from Harley Quinn the animated series go on to this Oprah type show, and so they have stories. So the first one is it has Vixen, Ellie, her girlfriend, and Harley and Ivy. Vixen and Ellie go to Gotham to have dinner with Harley and Ivy. And, of course, Vixen, she's a superhero, so she's not necessarily one to hang out with, like, villains. But they all make a deal that they're all going to be good. And so, of course, it's not that Harley and Ivy really do anything bad, but they're at dinner, and villains break in, and then they all actually work together. It's actually really a fun story, and really just really great take on their relationships on both Ellie and Vixen and Harley and Ivy. It's a really good story. O'Neill Jones' artwork's really nice. Now, all the artwork has kind of an animation type feel to it. So it kind of, they're different visual looks, but they all kind of have that kind of animation look. So even though they're separate visuals, it does have a nice continuity between it. The Identity Crisis is a Batgirl story, and of course, for me, having Erica Henderson do anything, I love her artwork. She's just absolutely amazing, and it's really just a fun little Batgirl story. That's a lot of fun. Showtime is actually probably one of the more surprising ones because it's a Clayface story, and we find out that Clayface has a daughter. It was while he was living in Vegas, he created this like baby or whatever out of clay. And so he finds out when he's on this job that he has a daughter. So it's just like it's a really interesting story. It's very sweet. Then we have Wild Ride, which is Dr. Psycho and his son, who is so Giganta is his ex-wife in the show, and so the son. It's like his weekend, Dr. Psycho's weekend to be with the son, and he's supposed to go to prom. He doesn't want to go to prom, but then there's a whole thing of like, he doesn't realize that his son has some powers. They teleport him to like this like Friday the 13th Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing. And it's really just a really wild story, but once again, it has a nice father-son element to the story that is really quite good. And then the last one is Two Jokers, where the Mayor Joker, there's like him who's the Mayor Joker, and then there's the Clown Joker. And it's just like they kind of have this yin and yang, like they really hate each other, but they're like kind of opposites, but they're the same, and it's just really wild. It's a really fun story. Like I said, all the artwork's really good. The stories are really good. I really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of the animated series, it's really good. This is not really this is an extension of the Eat Bang Kill miniseries that T. Franklin and Max Sarin did. And but it does stand on its own. This is so if you're a fan of Harley Quinn, this is really good. And like I said, I think all the story and the artwork's really good. I had a lot of fun with it. Next up, we have Ant-Man #2, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Tom Riley. So each issue is focusing on a different Ant-Man through the years, and this one is Eric O'Grady, who apparently was not a well-liked Ant-Man. This version of Ant-Man was done by Robert Kirkman. But so what it is he worked for Shield. He stole an Ant-Man outfit, but it is ran out of shrinking gas. And so he decides to go to, because in this, Scott Lang is dead. So he decides to go to his grave because he's like, well, maybe they buried him with his suit and we can get some more gas. And I can see how Al, like, I can see, I never read the Kirkman version of this, but I can see how he was not well liked. But he is kind of a charming, he's a bit of an idiot, but he's kind of like weirdly entertaining, but you don't necessarily like him a lot, but it works. And Ewing has done that really quite well. I really love Tom Riley's art, how it has like kind of a retro, kind of 60s, Ditko-ish type look to it, without, he's not trying to look like Ditko, but it just kind of has that feel. And I like how it's a continuing story, but he's kind of separating out, because at the end, Ant-Man does travel to another universe, and there's kind of a twist at the ending, which I will not give away. But it's quite interesting. So like I said, I'm still enjoying this book. It's a lot of fun. And solid story and good artwork. It's continues to be something that I still think is well worth checking out. Next up, we have Blink #2, written by Christopher Sabella, with artwork by Hayden Sherman. So what it is Ren has gone back to these buildings that he has, like, he doesn't sleep well, he has nightmares, but he knows that there's a part of his life that has been kind of blanked out. So he goes back to these buildings where he has discovered this place that he's pretty sure he lived at one time. So in the first issue, at the end, they go into this building, and it's kind of like, and I described it in the first issue, it's kind of like that building in Harry Potter where it's really small on the outside, but it's really big on the inside. And so when they get in, there's kind of like, I guess you could say like zombies or something. I mean, even this issue, we're not quite sure, but they're bad. They're chasing them down. His friend Joel, who went with him to find, basically they figure out it's kind of a maze. And so, Joel gets killed by the zombies, but Ren finds this one place where he kind of, it's like I don't want to say zombies, but there's another group of people, and it kind of has to do with, like, well, he keeps seeing videos of like what has happened, because it was basically this cult, and the people went there and they did the stuff, and then they were going to leave. Well, they got trapped there. So we're assuming that these zombies are the people that got trapped there. So that's kind of an interesting twist on the story. I will say that Sabella has built nicely on the first issue. It's still like a lot of uncertainty of like what's going on, but that's okay, because he is explaining stuff along the way, especially when they watch videos of, like, what has happened in the past. So it's kind of giving Ren it's kind of jogging his memory at the same time. So it's really interesting, and of course Sherman's artwork is really, really nice. I think this is definitely something, if you're looking for something different, I'm enjoying it, because it is something kind of unique, but unique in a good way. And our last book of the week, we have Wonder Girl 2022 Annual. Now this is written by Joelle Jones, and Douglas Marquez is a co-writer on parts of the story. The artwork is by Amy Lennox, Adrian Mello, and Ben Dewey. So what it is, so there's separate stories, but they're all kind of connected together. Now, the first story is really the origin of Jerry, her Pegasus partner in crime. Jerry that really kind of loves her and hates her at the same time. So that's really how the book starts. But then the other stories connect, because what it is there's Alzira is the bad guy or the bad girl in this case, and so they're part of the story gives her origin. What it was, she was a twin sister, and they both fell in love with the same guy. And so what it is, there was a contest to see who would win his, because he liked them both. Her sister won, so she made a deal with like the devil to that if she did a certain thing, that she would win the husband. Well, that backfires, and of course, it's be careful what you wish for. And so she kind of turns into this like mystical demon witch. And so what it is that Flora's family, or tribe, gets attacked by these monsters who's being controlled by Azira. And so what it is, so you have like kind of multiple storylines going on at the same time, but it's part of the same story. So that's how it's all laid out. Now, it does make perfect sense how it goes in and out, because I have to give Joelle, she really sets it up really well. So exactly what parts are what, but they all kind of, so it kind of bounces back and forth of like going in between the storylines of her. So there's Flora and the group that she's with, and then there's the tribe parts, and so it's kind of going back and forth, and within that is the origin of as Alzira. Now, once again, I'm a big fan of Joelle's Wonder Girl. It was part of the future state, and I think that really kind of fell apart after Dan DiDio left DC, and there was still the remnants of Wonder Girl. And now they've canceled her regular series. This is very possible. Maybe there were stories that were going to be told. I'm not sure. This is kind of all self-contained. But it does allude that there might be more Wonder Girl in the future. So hopefully Joelle will get a chance to at least maybe write some more Wonder Girls, because now she with Dark Crisis, she's part of that, the new Justice League. Now, whether that's gonna stick or not, we don't know, but hopefully in the future, because like I said, Joelle's really done a wonderful job in creating this version, this Flora. And it really is. It was really kind of sad when it was canceled, because it was really a well-liked book. So I'm glad at least at least this one more kind of annual or special. So that's, well, once again, I think if you enjoyed that, and if you had not read Wonder Girl, I think this is a good opportunity to find out how good Joelle did in creating this character. That's going to do it this week, kids. For a short week, it was a long show, but we had some big anthology books. So yeah, that's just going to take a little time to get through. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. He owns the store. He's really good. He loves comics. He always has. And Annie is there. Eduardo's there. Wendy is there. And then Derek Easley does all their social media. You can check out their Facebook group. It's really a lot of fun. They have a Tuesday unboxing video, so they show kind of like all these comics and even more, because I can't review everything. I try, but I just can't. And it's really a good store. Of course, it's in Long Beach, California. Now, there is a sister store, separate owners. It's Pulp Fiction Culver City. That's owned by Chris and run by her team. So if you're in the LA area, that's another great store to check out. Both stores offer pull services, discounts with the pull service, and discounts on their trades and hardcovers every day. So they're really both great stores. Of course, I'm obviously more inclined to the Long Beach store, because that's my store. But definitely always support your local comic shop. It's important. And as always, we end our show with please be kind. Be kind to each other. I know things are tough out there for a lot of people, and trust me, I know that more than anybody else. Or just as much as a lot of people, a lot of viewers and people out there. But being kind really is good for you and good for everyone else. So please be kind to each other and take care of yourselves. And always please be safe, stay healthy, and just take care of yourselves. And once again, please support your local comic shops. They're the backbone of our industry, and they're the reason we get comics every week. So thanks for watching. Take care. We'll be back next week. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's always appreciated. This is Steven from popculturemaven.com signing off. We'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.